Welcome to All Things Moore County, Moore County's weekly radio show highlighting the many facets of the Sandhills. That includes real estate, lifestyle, community and neighborhoods. And now, from 4 Properties, here's your host, Bill Sahadi.
Good morning. Welcome to the talk show, All Things Moore County. We had a show this summer about real estate development. Back in the summer, we were joined by Nicholas Lasala, who is the owner of Victory Vineyards in Cameron, and Michael Parker, who owns Terrace Ridge Farms. And in a way, both of these guys are in the real estate development business as farmers. You might say to yourself, what? And it's no small coincidence that 2 weeks ago, we had the League of Women Voters on to broadcast a show. And they talked all about the upcoming elections. And with people who think of the League of Women Voters, sometimes they think of the national debates that the League hosts. But the point was made during the show that the most important elections that they work with and work around are the local elections. In particular, the county commissioners and the Board of Education, because all politics is local. And it's a nonpartisan group. And when they made that point about the county commissioners, Nicholas, I thought of you because both you guys have been working with the county commissioners about a vision that you have for the portion of Carthage outside of the city limits, that the type of homes and communities you're hoping to see come to fruition. You've had some interesting happenings since the summer when you were here and today, and if you want to bring us up to date, would love to get a follow-up from you.
Yeah, Bill. So thanks again for bringing Michael and I back.
Oh, yeah.
And it's very timely,
yeah.
Right? So talking both about the elections and what we are desiring to do, I like the way you prefaced us as being real estate developers because we've gotten a name for ourselves being anti-development.
Right.
And we are not. We are pro-development.
Right.
And in the county unincorporated areas, not just outside of Carthage, but anywhere where it's unincorporated, we would like to see the development of small family farms. And the election's going to be critical here coming up because we have spent the whole summer training up the county commissioners, the current set on the land use plan. And we're going to see a giant change here, at least 3 brand new ones, potentially 4. So we're going to be back in the education business come December when they seat.
Right.
So, but going to answer your theme question.
Yep.
So what coalesced out of the 6 hearings on the Union Church Road subdivision was the perfect theme of the land use plan. And it coalesced as town and country.
Right.
That's what the Moore County land use plan envisions. And that's what we and a lot of citizens in the county that we found during this process want to see the county develop as. There are towns where there are services and shopping and schools and sidewalks, but then people want the country. They want that separation either to live there and farm there or to go on the weekend and to get away from the hustle and bustle of Aberdeen and Pinehurst and Southern Pines.
Why even have a land use plan? What's the point?
Well, Bill, I want to take issue with one thing you said when you introduced us.
Okay.
Which you said that we are advocating for our vision of what we want the county to be.
Okay.
It's not our vision.
Okay.
We share in that vision, but the vision that we are advocating for is the one set forth in the land use plan. Now, you said, why is it important?
Yes.
It's important because that was the vision of the framers and the committee who developed this in 2013, actually from 1999. Then in 2013, and then even if you look at the draft 2020 plan, it was the vision that they had for that entire time, which is this town and country thing,
Exactly.
which they identified as setting Moore County apart and making them unique. If you go out and you look at the communities around, like I know, I think it's Carthage who wants to model themselves after, is it Hope Mills or Hope Springs or Hope, one of those towns. You look on their website, they have pictures of the subdivisions they want. That's every day. I mean, that's what, that's, you go anywhere in these smaller towns, and that's what you see.
Right.
I don't want that. Okay. I want something that was unique to this county when I was a kid, and was unique to, for my children growing up. And it's this town and country theme. Right. If I want to live in town, if I want perfectly manicured lawns, yards, I'm going to go to Whispering Pines, or I'm going to go to Pinehurst. Beautiful properties there.
Right.
I don't want that.
Right.
I want to live out in the country where I can sort of do my thing. If I want to go shoot my guns, if I want to go hunting on my land, I want to be able to go do that. Right. And there are a lot of people that we are finding who want that too. They don't want to live in these, and this is one of the things we found in the land use plan. I'm going to come back to your question.
Sure.
The land use plan discourages development, major subdivisions, in the areas outside of the municipalities. In fact, it specifically says that it is they recommend against, and they are opposed to generic subdivisions. You look at the ones that they put in. Now, I'm not discouraging people who live there. That's great. We're glad to have them here. But you look at those and tell me what separates each of those subdivisions from anything else. Right. It's not. They're all the same. They're just battered around in different places, okay? That's the sprawl that we're opposed to, okay? Right. Now, why is it important to have a land use plan? It's important to have that because what you have is you set out this policy that directs and guides the county's development, okay? What we need is a planner. And we need somebody who actually looks at the property, they look at the plan, and then they develop building based upon that theme and that plan. We're not getting that now, okay? What we're getting, and if anything came out in this hearing, it is that is not what's happening. We're getting development spattered all over the county, okay? And that is what we're opposed to, because that is not the vision of the framers. It's not the vision that I want for my home, and it's not the vision that most of the people we deal with do. If you want to live in town, great, go there. They're building houses, apartments all the time. Right. But if you don't want that, then you're either going to have to go somewhere else if Moore County loses its town and country thing, because it's not going to be here.
All you have to do is go to the center of Cary, get in your car, and drive in a 10-mile circumference around Cary. You will wind up seeing where farms used to be, and now what you see are these concrete subdivisions, clear-cut parcels. We have people coming into Moore County all the time from the Raleigh-Cary area just because of that. Moore County is a jewel. It's what drew me here as far back as 1979. And the character of Moore County is what people are drawn to. So as real estate people, we're in favor of preserving the character of the county and not having it become another Cary. I mean, it's so easy to say and to see.
Yeah, that exactly, Bill. And so to further answer your question, why a land use plan?
Right.
The county was way ahead of this because they started their land use plan back in 1999. Last year, the year before, the state redid the municipality law, the general statute, and it now requires, in order for a municipality or a county to exercise its zoning authority, it requires them to have a comprehensive land use plan. So where other towns and counties in the state may be scrambling right now to create a comprehensive land use plan, Moore County's had one in place since 1999.
Yeah. It's interesting. Michael, you're born and raised in Moore County.
Yes.
Nicholas, you're from the Northeast. You're from New Jersey. Somewhere
you said
between the two of you guys is Baltimore, Maryland, or I don't know where. But isn't it interesting that you're coming from the Northeast, you're a native, and yet you guys have united behind this move. So my question to you, Nicholas, is you've retired here from the military. What is it about Moore County that is worth preserving to you, other than just the beauty of the landscape?
Yeah, it's the heritage of the county. And when I say heritage, the definition of heritage is land that descends to an heir. And when I came here first to Moore County in 2011, when I got stationed at Fort Bragg, I met Michael Parker.
Yeah.
Michael Parker is now on a family-owned farm for 96 years. That I wanted to connect with that, because being from the suburbs of New Jersey, nobody was from that area.
You survived.
Absolutely. But nobody was from that area. There was nobody with heritage there. There was actually one family in the town that I grew up in, and it was a museum piece. They'd send class trips over to this last remaining farmhouse in the town that I grew up in, and that always resonated with me. And when I got stationed here at Bragg, and we bought our farm out in Cameron, I met Michael Parker, and there was just, this is where we want to stay, because there are people like the Parkers whose the streets are named after their families. They have farms that have been descended. The land has been descended to heirs for hundreds of years. Right there, I think the McLeods have been here since 1777. I mean, that to me is that I want to be a part of that, and that's why I came. That's why I stayed in Moore County.
One of our real estate brokers, Victoria Riddle, lives on a Century Farm in Carthage, and this past summer, she hosted our company. We did some photos, marketing materials, and to a broker, they all felt like we were all going back in time, and yet we were not 15 minutes from Pinehurst, and it was a great escape. And I had heard about her farm and her family has done here. So, coming from a real estate bent, we're all on the same page. And I think it was a very rewarding thing to do, rather than to be in the urban sprawl. If you can call southern Moore County urban sprawl, that might be an exaggeration. But we don't want to become Cary. I mean, just drive up there and take a few ibuprofen.
Well, I'll tell you, Bill, the other thing, too, Nick talked about, he wanted to be part of the heritage, okay?
Yeah.
I want others to be part of that heritage. Because you're selling these half-acre homes in these subdivisions, there's nothing to divide out for your kids. You can leave them that house, but it's there.
They're not even half-acre homes.
I know. I mean, well, and you go to Carthage, they're looking now at like 10,000 square feet. I mean, you got enough to put a house on, and you could literally, you can literally see into the houses, reach out and touch them from inside your bedroom. I mean, I don't care to live that way.
Yeah.
But my point is that there was an article this week in the Pilot about the average homes now are $350,000, and that's the new standard of affordability in Moore County. Yeah. I got a problem with that, okay? Because one of the land use plan's provisions is to provide affordable housing to people.
Right.
The people I know, $350,000 is not affordable. Plus, if you buy that, there's no heritage hope there that you can pass it to your kids. Whereas if you do 6 to 11 acre tracts or these smaller farm tracts, you're going to reduce the price of that. That's going to become more affordable because you can actually provide for your family on that land if you want.
Right.
And you have land that you're going to be able to be a heritage farm for your children. You're going to be able to divide that up and have them live there. I know that there are many families right now who that's what happened during the hearing. The lawyer for Tri-South tried to make a big deal out of the fact that we had broken off smaller tracts of our farm. You go back and listen to it, and that there are other small tracts of land around there which would make that subdivision consistent. Well, the problem that he missed was most of those subdivisions are in Henderson land. Henderson land up there, there's probably a dozen Hendersons who live on this tract of land who this has been in their family, I don't know how long, probably hundreds of years, and they've slowly just broken it down so that their families can stay there, okay?
Yeah.
Now, I know that's not a popular thing to do, but in the South, that's what we've always done. One of the biggest goals of a Southerner is for their kids to become successful and be able to live nearby.
That's right.
Now, and, like I've got one who's really good in digital media, and he may his destiny may lie somewhere other than Moore County. And if so, that's great. I want him to do that. But if it doesn't, I want him to know that there's always a place for him here. And what we're doing with these subdivisions is not that. You're not building a sense of community. You're building houses.
Yeah. In closing on this first set, because we're winding down and that's going to happen, I would venture to say that the $350,000 mark that you just mentioned is too low. It's too low. We've seen from 2020 to today such an increase in pricing across Moore County that if something comes on the market that's new, if it's in the 350 range, there'll be a swarm. Most of it's over 400, and unfortunately, the amount of storage in those homes aren't enough to store an extra loaf of bread.
Right.
That's a fact. We're going to come back in the second set. This is All Things Moore County. We're speaking with Nicholas Lasala, and we're speaking with Michael Parker about the land use plan and about the future of Moore County. Welcome back to our second set of All Things Moore County. We're talking about the Moore County Land Use Plan and the effort that's been spearheaded on behalf of a lot of people, not just for their own behalf, Nicholas Lasala and Michael Parker. Since you were here in the summer, and since you've gone through, I guess, a first phase where you've had dealings with the meetings, the county commissioners, what have you guys learned, and what are you doing going forward?
So yeah, Bill. So we spent 6 hearings on challenging the Union Church Road Conservation Subdivision, and we learned a lot. And so I'll distill it down into probably the key things. One, we learned that there is a group in the county who want to see the right kind of development. And that's kind of what birthed Moore Family Farms. This wasn't just Michael Parker and Nick Lasala dreaming this up. People had come and said, hey, we need to do something. Because in the past, I think folks did not think they had a voice at the table.
Right.
So what we learned was that people were motivated, and it's both folks that have been here a long time and folks that have moved to this area for the very town and country theme that Moore County possesses. And so with that understanding that there was a group of concerned citizens that wanted to challenge some of these sprawling type subdivisions, we started this process. Now, the process that we were in, there are 2 types of processes in the land use plan and land zoning within the county. One is legislative and one is quasi-judicial. And the legislative process is where any citizen can come and speak at an open hearing, public open hearings on a rezoning decision. This was not one of those. This was quasi-judicial because the land was zoned residential agriculture 40,000 square foot lots. And what they were doing was they were asking for a conditional use of that lot. So from a legal perspective, this was an authorized development of that land. So we got into this quasi-judicial process, and holy smokes, legal books, learning process, calling people up. You had to have experts. No, you just couldn't have a lay person show up like at a regular legislative meeting and speak against or for this subdivision. So thank God that we have Michael Parker on our team, the legal brilliant mind that pulled this all together. And I'm going to let him give you the details on what he had to learn that the average citizen just can't be expected to pick up.
That's right.
The only reason we were successful because we had the basis of Michael's legal background to leap from. And that's the other big thing that we learned is the average citizen is way behind on being able to challenge anything in a quasi-judicial type setting.
Right. But with Michael's presence, your voice became more potent, and you had the right people speaking on your behalf, as opposed to people who maybe were well-meaning but didn't have the wherewithal, the knowledge, the background to make a case. They could have been railroaded, basically.
Yeah, and excuse me, and that the fact that you just can't to read legalese. Yeah. I mean, we needed someone who was actually a lawyer, and that was a huge asset to us. And the average person doesn't have that. And Michael came to More Family Farms free, right? So throughout this 6 hearings, I mean, I don't know what the going rate of a lawyer is, probably $250 an hour. The county, the citizens of Moore County owe Michael Parker a lot of money because the time that he gave, pro bono to fight this fight. Because I'm sure the Tri-South folks were paying their lawyer a lot of money to sit in hearings for 4 hours at a pop, not to mention all of the prep work that had to occur. So the legal background and then the expense. You have to have competent people, experts essentially, testify at these hearings. It cost us $7,500, More Family Farms, to hire 3 experts. One in traffic, one in hydrology, and one in land use planning.
Right.
And what family farm or group of neighbors can bring that kind of money together to challenge these types of decisions?
The way you paint the picture, you make this entire fight. It's got a very organic feel to it. It's really it's a grassroots feel, and it actually is it's a story for other counties and other states to look at. It's actually very impressive.
And it's hope for the citizens because in this process, we had people come to us and say, "Why even bother? This is a foregone conclusion. They are going to do what the developers want done," and I think we disproved that.
We have people all the time. Victoria Riddle has people all the time. They come. They want to buy a home. They want to buy a homestead. They want to buy something, and they have a vision. And they want to fit into that vision. And our job is to try to be their eyes and ears and put them somewhere where they're protected. And so we come upon that all the time. People come in with their perfect world set of expectations. And they want to get away. We have so much urban sprawl coming here from other areas. And it's what you guys are talking about is what so many people are looking for. And that's what you're fighting for, Michael.
Well, Nick gives me far more credit than I deserve because it wasn't just me.
Okay.
Because there were people, Nick did the research on the land use plan.
Okay.
My son, Matthew, who's also a lawyer, helped me out with the legal research. My wife helped me out with factual research. Other people that I'm not going to mention because their jobs could be affected helped me out with information that was useful to us. I also want to give credit where credit's due. I want to thank the county commissioners and Misty Leland because they gave me more leeway than I probably should have had. They allowed my clients an opportunity to be heard fully. and they allowed us continuances together, our case together, because I'm going to tell you, I mean, I'm a retired homicide prosecutor. I mean, I started working murders with my daddy when he was county coroner when I was 8 years old. He carried me to my first death scene at 8, and I figure I've worked 800 of them. I will tell you, I have tried murder cases easier than what I did at the quasi-judicial hearing. It was hard. I had to learn a whole new area of law. The lawyer for the other side, for Tri-State Builders, is probably one of the best land use attorneys in the state, and I learned a lot from him. It was a learning curve of massive proportions for me because, I mean, I can try a case, but to go in and learn this section of law and to see the differences, and you said, well, here's the thing, any lawyer, that's what lawyers do. Lawyers give voices to the voiceless, and we give hope to the hopeless. And when I was training prosecutors, I've trained in probably 15 states in trial advocacy, and I used to always tell them, anybody can prosecute. A good prosecutor will win the cases they should win and will lose the cases they should lose. And a great prosecutor will give the state a fighting chance in every case. And what Nick said is absolutely true. I had so many people come up and say, thank you for what you're doing, but you're going to lose. Okay. Even the newspaper reporter right before, she asked me, she said, looks like, right before I gave my argument, I like her. She was very kind. And when there were problems, I could call her. I think her name was Evie. Evie, I could call her and say, look, this was not quite right in this article. And she would thank me for it. And she appreciated that. And she told me right before the argument, she said, well, it looks like you got your work cut out for you. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, yes, it does, because I'll tell you, when I go in to argue a case, I like representing the underdog. I've always done that. To me, the citizens in this case were the underdog. And for one time, and we've had people since then, they come back to me and they say, thank you for what you've done. They're making donations to more family farms so that we can carry on these fights for other people. And they tell me nobody has ever fought for me like that before. That's what made it worthwhile. I spent my entire summer doing this. I mean, right now, as my wife says, we're so far behind on farm work. My yard is one of those that is unkempt, like the lady in the newspaper said this week, probably because I've been doing 6 hearings on this thing. We've probably put in, I can't tell you how many thousands of hours we put in researching it, gathering the information, doing the work, putting forth the case. I appreciate that the county commissioners were willing to listen. And I know I pissed them off on occasions up there, but I really didn't care because I'm representing my clients and
Right.
I had a job to do. They were kind enough, though, to see through that and do their jobs and make a decision based upon the evidence in the case and not just the personalities of the people. Because I can tell you, I'm proud of the work we all did up there, and that we're doing it. We're awaiting the order now. They can always appeal it. But the fact that we challenged 4 of the 5 points and that they sided with us on all 4, that's a big deal. That's a big deal.
Will the upcoming elections with the county commissioners, is that going to change any of the dynamics for you guys going forward?
Well, it won't change our dynamic. It just means that we have a new set of commissioners to kind of get trained up on the land use plan and the vision and themes of that plan. So we're taking a knee right now, but we're not stopping. I was at the county commissioners meeting last night, kind of reinforcing on a very routine rezoning action, just reiterating and reinforcing, hey, listen, the land use plan is the basis of all land use decision making in the county.
Right.
And we have 5 commissioners who understand that. We're going to have 3, maybe 4 brand new ones come December.
Okay.
Well, I'll tell you, the commissioners, I'm not taking a knee because one of the things that we as the citizens need to do is we need to find these commissioner candidates and we need to ask them what's their view on this development. Okay, because that's what's going to influence. That should influence your vote. If this matters to you, then it should matter enough to find their phone number, call them, and take them to breakfast. We've already met with some of them, and we've had lunch with them. We've had breakfast with them. We've talked to them about it because their vision of Moore County is what's going to dictate the use of the land use plan.
And the League of Women Voters has sent out a questionnaire to candidates running for the board and for the Board of Education. about positions. They ask the same questions of each candidate.
Yeah.
And hopefully some of those answers will be on the League of Women Voters site. We're going to come back in the third set. Let's talk about morefamilyfarms.org, what people are going to see when they get there. Your motto has been, let's build communities, not houses. And it sounds to me like you guys are off to, you're off to a very solid, great start. This is All Things Moore County. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our final set of All Things Moore County. We have still a lot to talk about with Nicholas Lasala and Michael Parker, the county's land. I'm learning a lot just listening to you guys, and I applaud what you're doing and how you're doing it. I mentioned earlier, it seems like it's sort of a groundswell, organic type process that is gathering steam. But to that end, you just held a class, a free class. You want to talk about that and what you're trying to accomplish?
Yes, we've done what we want to be able to do is be a resource for those people who want to fight these developments.
Okay.
I've had calls from Vass, from citizens of Vass, from Carthage, from Southern Pines. They're constantly contacting us about what they can do to address the growth in those towns. That's not our focus. Our focus is on what's going on in the county, but we provide resources to them and advice if possible. And so what we wanted to do was, it took an extreme amount of time on all of our parts this summer to fight this. And what we've learned from doing this is we can't fight all of these for everyone. I can help them. And so what we want to do is be a resource and teach other people how to fight these developments in their communities, because a lot of people don't know that with the land use plan, to get a development approved, you have to have a special use permit. In Moore County, only the commissioners can approve that special use permit. There are other counties where they have what's called development by right. If your property is in a properly zoned area that would allow for it, you can develop it into multifamily homes, anything you want, subdivisions, anything you want. All you have to do is file a plan that meets the elements of the county, and they can't turn you down. You're entitled to do that. Moore County is not that way. Moore County elected to allow the commissioners to approve every special use permit that comes through. That was why we had this quasi-judicial hearing. Now, when you talk to the developers, they would have you believe, and this is what most of the public thinks, is that, it's a foregone conclusion. It's development by right. All I have to do is ask for it and I can do it. That's not true. You have land use, you have land rights and property rights. Those rights in Moore County allow you to ask to develop your property, okay? But the commissioners, based upon their planning and what their vision for the county is and their land use plan, have the right to tell you yay or nay based upon that. So what we want to do is help people understand how they can oppose these, what they can do to develop better development. We're in favor of development, but the right kind of development.
Right.
And until that happens, we've got to be in a position to fight it. So one of the things we did was we wanted to have a class, and we want to share the knowledge that we've learned. We've only talked to you about 10 or 15 minutes about what we learned. Mm-hmm. We've had literally 4 months of an education. Mm-hmm. I don't want that to go to waste. So if I can share it, then that's great. So what we want to do is we want to talk about what you got to have to show your standing, how you go about it if you're faced with one of these, what you need to do. Moore Family Farms is also in the process. We are looking and needing retired lawyers here who would be interested in helping. We are also looking and needing retired engineers to review the plats. One of the things we learned in this hearing was that they are not reviewed like they should be. The plat in this case was woefully inadequate and did not comply with the county's plan. That was one of the justifications for the denial of it. And we need people who know what they're looking at to look at them so that they can evaluate them based on what the county requires. We also need appraisers. That's one of the elements we can have, retired appraisers, real estate people like that, because that's one of the elements that you can use and show. And all of these people cost money. Right now, when we put it on, Nick said 7,500. I know that we put out my family, we advanced it. But we've got it worked out so that we've paid, all of the experts have been paid now through donations from the community. What we want to do is to create a bank of experts,
right,
that people who come to us, we can tell them, you're going to need a traffic engineer. Here's a list of traffic engineers you can talk to. And if we have money available, I'd like to be able to help them pay for those. You're going to need a hydrologist. You're going to need somebody. In our situation, for example, there was a perennial stream that ran through this property, through the wetlands, that was not even noted on this plat. That's a big deal because the plat requires riparian buffers, and it also requires swales, and it requires a stormwater management plan.
Right.
That was inadequate in this plan. The hydrologist testified that if we had not had a hydrologist who actually developed the characteristics for being able to identify the origins of streams, we would never have known that this was even a problem. He came out and walked around this. Nick was in the woods with him. He can tell you what he saw. Mm-hmm. But they come back and tell me, you're not going to believe this. There's like a 6-foot wide stream coming through this place it was not even noted on the plat. Am I right, Nick?
That is absolutely correct. I got the scratches to
Prove
certify it.
Right. So this is the thing that the general public doesn't understand. And as and when they make the request in the quasi-judicial hearing, you can't just come with your opinions. You're going to have to come with facts. And those facts are required to be from an expert. So what we need to do is, and Nick mentioned 3 experts that we paid. We actually had a 4th expert who came down on her own dime and testified for us as well.
Really?
And agritourism.
Agritourism expert, yes. And that was beneficial, but you're not going to find experts who are just going to sink into their pocket and travel for 3 or 4 hours.
No,
I mean, you can't expect them to do that.
And you can't find active ones in the county because they're employed by the developers and the builders, and they're not going to testify against these folks. So the folks that we found were either retired or from, all the way at Wilmington, because, I mean, you can't expect folks to kind of, submarine their own careers, I guess.
It sounds like, in a lot of ways, what you guys are doing is the antithesis of Big Brother and trying to fight, David fighting Goliath. But most people just give in and they sort of go with the flow. That doesn't seem to be the case here.
Well, what we're hoping too is I don't even like the David and Goliath kind of thing, because I don't want it to seem adversarial. One of the things I hope that we have demonstrated over the summer is there is a large population of people either in the county or coming to the county that want this type of lifestyle. 6, 11, 15-acre homes. And so there's a market for that, right? We don't want to stop people from, having jobs, building and selling homes and developing properties. Our whole point is there's another way, there's a better way to do it in this county. Mm-hmm. Because one of the other key things that we learned in this process is there is a tight-knit community just below the surface that has not raised its head until this process occurred. Yeah. And we have seen people come out of the woodwork in defense of their neighbors. And it's, it's something that I think we thought we lost in America, but it is alive and well in Moore County. And Moore Family Farms just happens to have been birthed at the right time that is giving a voice to the sense of community that is Moore County.
You say you don't want it to be adversarial, but even on your card it says join the fight. So there's a little bit of a...
Well, there's got to be, I mean...
I know.
It's a give and take, yin and yang.
I know. Yeah, I know.
I designed the card. I don't have a problem with it being adversarial.
Then we're going with it.
Yeah, here's my rule, okay?
Okay.
I want to be fair
Yep.
and negotiate an acceptable settlement and compromise.
Right.
But I ain't afraid to go to the mat when I have to.
Right.
And so right now, when that card was made before this hearing,
Yeah.
it was a fight.
Yeah.
We see hope now that we may be able to come to some mutual agreement is what I hope. But I'm not afraid of the fight.
And it is a fight. Don't get me wrong. It is a fight because what we're fighting is the norm.
Yes.
Right? So,
yes.
and people don't like change.
You're right.
People don't like change. The easy button is take 100 acres, clear it, put on 200 houses, and people will buy the houses, right? So what we're fighting is just the inertia, or the inertia of this is the way it's always been done. This is the easy button. So it is a fight. The fight is to open people's eyes.
One of the things that I had somebody come up to me before this hearing and tell me was that you're trying to set a precedent with this. And I was absolutely opposed to that attitude because we didn't know at the time whether we were going to prevail or whether we weren't. And what I did not want was people to think that if we did not prevail, that it set a precedent where you could never prevail. So what my view was, we are actually not trying to set a precedent. We're trying to reverse a precedent. The precedent had already been set before we ever started this fight. That precedent was you asked for development, you got one. It didn't matter if they'd put it anywhere in the county, regardless of the land use plan. One of the highest compliments that I heard, and I attribute it to Nick, was during this hearing, one of the commissioners actually said that she had been on the commission. She had lived in this county her whole life. She'd been on the commission for 8 years, and she read the land use plan, and she knew more about Moore County now than at any time she had ever served on the county commissioners. And so that's the thing that that's what we're in the fight for. That's what we want people to know. If you choose to live here, then you don't have to conform to what we want, but the thing is, you choose to live here for a reason. I can't tell you how many people came up and said, look, I'm from New Jersey, I'm from New York, I moved here to get away from this development. We had one of the commissioners told us during the hearing that, well, if you don't want development, move to West Virginia. It was the next week that we actually had an email from a guy who says, okay, here's the problem. I just moved from West Virginia because of all the development there. I don't want it here again. Okay. And so that, and that's what it was. So yeah. So what we're trying to do is, we want to give them a voice and we want to empower the people. Okay, because they need this is their fight. This ain't just ours. I can't fight every one of these battles for them. I can help them and I can cheer them on, and I'll be happy to share my knowledge with them. But we've got to have other fighters step up to the plate to do this. Okay,
and so I'm a good example, right? So I'm not originally from here. I got stationed here because of the military, but I chose to live in conformity with the rural nature of the area. I bought a 10-acre horse farm at the time.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people will say, well, okay, now you're here in Moore County. You don't want anybody else to move here. No, that's not the case at all. Just if you're going to move into the unincorporated areas, you just be in conformity and harmony with the rest of the unincorporated areas. If you want to live in the town, then by all means, buy a 1/4-acre lot in one of the municipalities and live a happy life. And I think there's room for both.
I would direct people to read your column, Nick, in the pilot on Wednesday, the 14th of September. All can win if we follow the county's land use outline. You open up the column with a really good storyline, and then you try to reverse it from residential to agricultural. It's a good story. It's a good story. I would encourage people to read it. Time is short. There's more than just a regional story here. And as I'm listening to you, this is a story that I think would resonate in many other counties in different states. And I don't know I know that it's true. I don't know if you guys have had any opportunity to speak to media outlets or anything outside of Moore County, but this story is more than just Moore County. It is. And I applaud you both. There's a lot of work to do, but you're re-educating. You're giving people information and power that I don't know that they even were aware could be had. And so kudos to both of you. The one thing I will tell you, many people who move to Moore County move here for a reason. We don't want that reason to change. And you guys are sort of like the agents out there, sort of protecting the borders, saying we don't want it to change either. We want it to be as desirable as it's been, because that's what's been bringing people in. We don't want to change the magnet.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Well, you think about it this way. People think about the farming. Nick had the article was good. Where he proposed taking an area inside of a town and making it into a swine farm or a poultry farm.
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea myself.
Yeah.
But he laid out the reasons it wasn't. There are people who move here for reasons other than Nick and I choose to live here.
That's
okay?
right. That's right.
There are those who come here for the golf. Well, I asked them to consider what would happen if we started taking the golf courses and redeveloping them into apartment buildings.
Sure.
Would that change your attitude on how you felt about this community in this area?
Point well taken.
It's exactly the same thing. It's just the shoes on the other foot at that point.
We have to. Time is short. You guys are always welcome to come back. Updates. We love more. One thing we all have in common is we love Moore County.
Absolutely.
And because of that, all different factions of the citizens that live here love Moore County. And you can be pro-growth, you can be complete preservationist. We all want to do what's best for the county and for the citizens. You guys are doing a great job. Nicholas Lasala, thank you. And Michael Parker, thank you guys for coming and joining us today. This is All Things Moore County. Have a great week.